Hola, soy AJ. Hey guys, this is AJ, and this is an update video documenting my first 50 hours of dreaming Spanish. So if you hadn't already seen, in my last video, I kind of talked about how I got into learning Spanish and how I found dreaming Spanish through doing Duolingo and searching up videos and other things. So first, I'm gonna recap. If you don't really know what dreaming Spanish is, it's this website that kind of teaches you Spanish through this process called cognitive input. Now, cognitive input is the technique in which you consume media that is about 80 to 90% of comprehension, meaning that you understand like most of what you're consuming, and you'll understand the other things through context. And with the Dreaming Spanish website, pretty much it's kind of like they have a whole bunch of YouTube videos on the website, and I'm just watching these YouTube videos, and it's completely in Spanish, and they have it separated out for, super beginners and beginners, and I'm pretty much just picking up on Spanish through just watching these videos. They're not videos teaching you Spanish, they're just videos that are in Spanish, talking about, whatever kind of topic they wanted to. So first I want to talk about my first 10 hours. Starting hour 0, watching my first video, I said in the previous video that I honestly found it really cool. I was able to watch this video, watch something that was completely in Spanish and understand partially what was happening. They were doing a lot of gestures and they were writing on their whiteboard, but it was really cool because going from, just doing little Duolingo lessons to being able to watch a whole video and comprehend and understand what was happening, I thought was amazing. So I started with the super beginner videos and I was just watching. I think I started with 15 minutes a day, and then I slowly increased it to 30. And right now I kind of want to talk about my strategy for increasing the amount of input time every single day. So I knew that whenever I first started, that if I did not make it something that I was going to be able to stick to every single day, that I was not going to do it. And I thought, okay, well, I have 15 minutes. I can only watch this for 15 minutes every single day. I'll be okay. And that's what I started with. And then if I wanted to increase it to, let's say 20, some days I tried to get 20. I tried to get 20 minutes consistently, even though my goal was 15. The goal is set to 15 on the website. And so me constantly hitting 20 every single day made me realize, I'm like, okay, now I know I can hit 20 consistently, so I won't be forcing myself or going out of my way to get these extra minutes. Because I know that if I try to force myself to do it, that's how I know I'm gonna end up missing days and end up not wanting to do it. So yeah, I pretty much did that all the way up to 30 minutes for the first 10 hours every single day. And, I was having a fun time because, I was excited, using this new method of studying, and I was excited grinding it. And then around the 10-hour mark, sometimes I would log on and I felt like the videos I was watching, I was struggling a lot. And I even made a post about it on Reddit. I was like, it became hard for me to even watch more than one video at a time. I'd watch a 5, 6, 7 minute video and my brain would be exhausted from how much I'm trying to understand this video. So I'd have to take breaks. I'd have to watch a 7-minute video, take a break, go do something else, come back, watch a 5-minute video, take a break. And it felt like I was forcing myself to watch these videos again. And that is not what I wanted, because I knew that if I felt like that, then it was going to be very hard for me to continue. But this is just the very beginning of the process, so I didn't really know exactly what it was supposed to feel like. So I went on Reddit and I was trying to find other ways that I can get my input in. Because I know that people that are farther along in their hours, they talk about how they watch TV shows and they talk about how they listen to podcasts. And so that's when I found this one podcast called Cuéntame. Now, Cuéntame is this really cool podcast to where, well, not even really podcast, but this lady, she talks about these little things for about they're really short, 10, some are as short as 6 minutes, some are as long as I think 17 minutes, but they're normally around the 10-minute mark, which is really good because as a Spanish beginner, you don't have a lot of stamina when it comes to listening to Spanish. So you can get exhausted easily, especially if you're not watching it, if you're just listening to it, which, you're trying even harder to understand things then. And that was really good. I liked the things she was talking about. It wasn't too hard, for me to understand. I was still able to get through the podcast and understand the gist of what was happening. The kind of format of the podcast was she would talk about something at a slower speed for, let's say it's 10 minutes long. She would talk about something at a slow speed for 6 minutes, and then she would talk with it at native speed for 3 minutes. And then, you would listen to the first one, then you would listen to it again, the exact same words, just at a faster pace. And I really liked that because it helped me to, really listen, when they were speaking fast, and I was even able to pick up on some other details that I missed the first time. And it was around this exact same time that I found this other resource called Salsa. Well, the full title is Salsa Spanish for Kids, but I just call it Salsa. Now, I'll probably, pop up a photo on the screen so you can see it, but it's kind of like Elmo but in Spanish and for Spanish kids. The whole point of it was this Spanish show to teach, younger kids Spanish. So I started watching that, and that was like a game changer. It was the first time that I was ever able to watch something and I felt like I actually understood most, like 80% of what was being said. So I really, really enjoy salsa, and it's on YouTube. So you can actually just type in Salsa Spanish for Kids into YouTube and it'll come up. And it's really easy to understand. And the first, I think, like 10 episodes, they're actually going over stories that you already recognize. So the first story that they go over is Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And the second story they go over is Little Red Riding Hood. So you kind of already know what's about to happen, which makes it even easier for you to understand. And then they go on to talk about, like, they have their own stories, talking about their own characters. But it is really good. It was really good for me to watch this, and I'm still right now watching it at 50 hours. I'm still watching it and still learning new words and new phrases. So I was using the free version at first. I didn't pay for premium. I think all of the free content that they had added up to 17 hours. So once I hit 17 hours of watching Dreaming Spanish, and I was like, you know what, I'm still committed to this. I would still like to do it. So I decided to pay for the premium. And that's when I understood why I felt the way that I felt when I got to hour 10. Once I paid for the premium videos and all the premium videos showed up, I noticed that whenever I ranked the super beginner videos from easy to hard, out of the hardest 60 videos, 53 of them were the videos that I had watched. So literally, right when I got to 10 hours, that's when I got straight to like the bottom half of the hardest 60 videos that were in the super beginner, which is why it felt like it was so hard. And when you look at the difficulty ratings of these videos, I remember seeing some of them. There are some difficulty ratings of these videos, of the super beginner videos, that are even harder than the intermediate videos. And it made me feel better knowing that, okay, it's because I literally jumped to the hardest 60 videos and I watched all of those from only having 10 hours. When if I would have bought premium from the very beginning, those would have been like the last videos I would have watched. So then I instantly ranked it from easy again and went and watched like the easiest super beginner video that I hadn't already watched, and it was like night and day difference. Like I was watching it, and for the really like easy ones, I honestly had to speed them up. I had to put them in 1.25 speed because I'm so used to watching these other videos, 7 hours of these really hard videos, and I go back to watching these videos where they're talking like super slow, and I had to put it in 1.25 speed because I'm like, oh my goodness, like it felt like I was watching paint dry for some of them. So yeah, that made me feel like a lot better, and I got more into watching Dreaming Spanish videos after that. So I didn't stop watching salsa and I didn't stop listening to Cuéntame, but I was doing less of that and I was doing more of watching the Dreaming Spanish videos because I found more joy in watching the videos again. So I was doing that. I was still doing, a combination of the three all the way up till about like 30 hours. And right around there, I kind of stopped listening to Cuéntame. And the reason being is the first 10, 15 podcasts are really good. They're really easy to listen to. They're really good to follow. And then I had to cherry pick a few other ones. But once you kind of get into the later teens and into the 20s and 30s, you'll start to notice that like a lot of the things that she's talking about are things that like, I guess I have like no idea of. Like before, she would talk about like her family and what's it like for her to live in Wisconsin. And I noticed that she started talking more about like Spanish traditions and Spanish history and things with Spanish culture. Those podcasts were a lot harder to listen to and understand because she was talking about a lot of things that I didn't even know what they were, right? So sometimes she would say a whole sentence and I wouldn't understand a single word in the sentence because she's talking about a topic that I'm just completely unfamiliar with, and I'm still in the super beginner, so my Spanish vocabulary isn't as wide, and my Spanish comprehension isn't as good. So I kind of stopped listening to Cuéntame around 30 hours. Like also around 30 hours, I focused less on what they were saying in the video, and I focused more on watching it. I wasn't listening, I was hearing, if that makes any sense. Like I wasn't trying to listen to every single word that they were saying and see if I understood it or see if I didn't and try and piece together the context. I guess I kind of took like a laid back approach. I noticed that I just naturally started to kind of like sit back and just like just watch the video, and instead of like really trying to hear it, just watch it like it's a normal YouTube video. Because this is one of the things that I've noticed is that whenever we watch YouTube videos, or whenever we listen to podcasts, or whenever we do anything in English, we're not listening super hard. We're listening passively. We're listening and we're watching and we're trying to enjoy the content, just consume it. We're not trying to listen to every single word and catch every single thing. So I kind of took that same philosophy and applied it to watching these Spanish videos. I was no longer trying to, which I still do to occasion, right? Because I'm in some of the harder videos. At this point, I was trying to take a more laid back approach and not feel like I needed to understand every single word that was being said, and kind of more just like listening, watching, hearing, watching, if that makes any sense. It sounds really confusing, but to people who have done Dreaming Spanish, you kind of understand like what I'm feeling right now. It became easier not trying as hard, which is really weird. Also, I think around like 20, because around like 17 hours, I increased it to 45 minutes a day, and around like mid-20s, I increased it to an hour a day. Another thing that I want to talk about is that I was watching these videos, and I think while I was rapid firing the videos, I noticed, I watched this one video and I was like, whoa, this video was way more interesting than any other video I've seen before. And I was like, that was just such an interesting video. Like, that's crazy. And I noticed when I went back to look at it that it was a beginner video and not a super beginner video. And I've heard other people say that, hey, like, the super beginner videos, sometimes they can just be like really boring, but once you get to the beginner ones, it's going to be a lot better, and once you get to intermediate, it's going to be even better than that. And I just found it kind of funny that I was able to watch a video, not even know that it was a beginner video, that it was different, but I was just able to tell. I was like, because I could also tell that she was like speaking a little bit faster, not a little bit faster, but she wasn't taking as many breaks in between what she was saying. But it was still a cool video. I think it was Andrea's video about these like really weird creatures, and one of them, it's like a combination of like an eel and a shark, and it has like 300 teeth or something like that. It was a really interesting video. Kind of like some light at the end of the tunnel, knowing that once I get out of these super beginner videos, it's gonna get a little bit better. The videos are gonna get more interesting. They're just not boring, but you can only watch so many videos of people talking about how many brothers and sisters they have, and so I'm doing pretty good. I'm still watching Salsa. I'm watching mainly Dreaming Spanish videos though, and right around like 38, 39, 40 hours, the videos start to get a little bit harder again, which makes sense because I'm getting towards the lower portion of a harder portion of the videos. I tried to find another thing that I could listen to, another podcast, because I'm like, I really like the fact that I was able to drive to work or drive to school or drive to the gym and be able to get my Spanish input that way, or walk to class and get my Spanish input in. So I found another podcast called the Garbanzo podcast. It's all about like learning Spanish through telling stories. Let's say they have like a video that's like 18 minutes. The first like 5 minutes, 6 minutes, it'll be in like kind of like half English, half Spanish. They're trying to like get you to understand the words that are going to be said in the video. The second half of the video is going to be mostly Spanish. They'll chime in with English. They do is they ask you questions to make sure that you're understanding what you're hearing. So like something will happen, they'll be like, what do you think happens? This or this? And for an intermediate or for a high beginner learner, it might be very annoying. But to me, somebody who was super beginner, who was, getting close to beginner, it was actually kind of almost perfect, because I was able to understand most of the things that was being said inside of the story, on top of like learning some new words. And some people might ask, well, since they were speaking English, how did you count it? And I evened it out to about like, I think like, what is that, 60%, something like that. And it really all depends on when they start the story. That's kind of when I count it. From about like mid 30s to 40s and on up. That's pretty much what I was doing. I was listening to Garbanzo's podcast. I was still watching some Salsa episodes, but I was mainly watching super beginner Dreaming Spanish videos. Towards the end, I think at 48 hours, something awesome happened. I was sitting in my dining hall and I was eating, and I put on a Salsa episode. I was eating and I was watching it and I was eating, and I noticed that, remember earlier how I told you guys that I had like stopped focusing as much on exactly what they were saying and focused on just like, and just thought about just like watching it like it's a normal show. After like 6 or 7 minutes of watching the video, I stopped myself and I was like, wait a minute. This whole time, I wasn't translating a single bit of that. I noticed this whole time, I wasn't translating a single bit of what they were saying. I was just watching the video. I was just watching the video and hearing it and not translating it. I think it's because I was focused on doing something else. I tend to notice that I'm a little bit better when that happens. It honestly felt like I was watching it in English. It was such a cool experience because, and then of course, once I realized I was doing it, I wasn't able to go back. I started translating again, but it was like the very first instance in where I felt like, whoa, like that actually felt like English to me. So around this time, also around 48 hours, I finished all of the super beginner videos. And the beginner videos, I sorted them from easy, and it seemed they were just talking faster and that was it. Or they were, it just felt like they weren't taking as many breaks in between what they were saying. It's the same, they're saying the same stuff. They're not saying anything that's like, that you haven't necessarily heard before. It's just, they're not, putting emphasis on the breaks in between so that you don't really have a chance to translate it, I guess, if that makes any sense. And I think that style of video, them speaking a little bit faster, is also helping me not translate in my head, because obviously they're speaking faster, so it's a little bit harder to translate. So it is helping me just sit back and just watching and then just trying to understand, which has been pretty cool, because I think I'm at like 51, 52 hours right now. And for the past few days, because I'm still doing an hour a day. And for the past few days, that's been like, that's just been what I've been doing. I've just been sitting back, watching the videos, and it's been pretty good. I do want to work on grammar. Now, I know Pablo and everybody says that like you shouldn't have to work on grammar, but I feel like the grammar is kind of the thing that I'm struggling with the most right now. The grammar and like past conjugations. I want to be, if somebody asks, say something, oh, what did you do today? I'm not going to be able to talk to them, so I'm going to be saying everything in the present tense, you know what I mean? So my goals for, level 2 to 3 is for me to get it in 3 months, for me to understand and work more with my pronouns, so like direct and indirect pronouns, for me to practice grammar a little bit more and conjugations, get used to the past and the future. And then I know that Dreaming Spanish is really good for vocab, but I would like to go on, like at some point, go on Anki and just do like, top 300 or top 400 or 500 most common words, used words in Spanish. And then just run through those. Because I feel like vocab can't hurt, because whenever you hear it, you might not be able to necessarily use it, but whenever you hear it, you know what they're saying, or you're familiar with it. So if you have any questions for me, you can comment them down below. I will definitely respond. But yeah, I'll probably give you guys another update at 100 hours. So that'll be in like 50 days. But yeah, so see you guys later.